Hello Daily Drafters and welcome to the Lorwyn Eclipsed pre-release guide here on the channel designed to get you ready for your pre-release events this weekend. This video will be full of useful information for beginners to seasoned veterans, whether this will be your first ever pre-release or if you're looking for Lorwyn specific information such as a rundown on new and returning mechanics, limited archetypes, and more to make sure you're on top of your game at your LGS. So, whether you're new here or you've been here a while, stay tuned for the ultimate guide in helping you crush your Lorwyn Eclipsed pre-release. Now, some of you might be asking yourself, what exactly is a pre-release? Well, each year there are roughly 6 main set releases of Magic the Gathering products, and most local game stores run what's called a pre-release for each of these main set releases. Essentially, you battle it out against your friends and strangers using several booster packs of the brand new cards for the upcoming set that has yet to be released, hence the name, pre-release. If this sounds interesting to you, let's take a step-by-step look at exactly how these events are run. Step 1. Locate your local game store. In order to participate in a pre-release event, you will need to find one. If you do not already have a local game store that you frequent, I've included a link in the description to a website that will help you find a game store running an event near you. Now that you've found where you'll be participating, it's time to get registered. Usually stores will run events all weekend, maybe one on Friday, a couple on Saturday, and even one on Sunday. So check with your LGS to see when the events are happening and which ones you'd like to attend. Be sure to note that sometimes these events do fill up fast, so you may need to pre-register to ensure you have a spot. It just depends on your store. Other times you can just walk in and register on the spot, so be sure to find out what is best for your situation. Now that you're registered, it's time for the fun part. When it's time to start the event, you will get handed a pre-release kit, like the one on your screen now. Some sets, like Avatar, the last one we just played, give you an option on which kit to pick, but with Lorwyn, we're going back to just having the one kit available. Now that you've got your kit, when the event begins, you will be instructed to open your kit and begin your deck build. It varies from store to store, but usually you will have about 50 minutes or so to build your deck and get ready for your matches. Let's take a look at what you'll find when you open your kit. Inside you will find one traditional foil rare or mythic rare from Lorwyn, and interestingly, going forward these promos will no longer have a year stamp as they have in the past. I don't have a picture as to what the new promos will look like, but I can confirm that they will not contain the year stamp. You will also get 6 Lorwyn play boosters and one 20-sided spin down die. When it comes to the contents of your booster packs, each Lorwyn play booster will contain a variation of the following. 7 commons, and 2% of the time one of these 7 commons will be replaced by a special guest card, of which there are 20, many of which you can see on your screen now. 3 uncommons, and 10% of the time one of these uncommons will come in a Fable frame, of which there are 10, all of them are visible on your screen now. 1 rare or mythic rare, with varying art treatments at increasingly lower hit rates and examples on your screen now. 1 non-foil wildcard of any rarity, which has an 18% chance to be a common, a 58% chance to be an uncommon, and a 21% chance to be a rare or mythic. And you can also find varying art treatments of cards in this slot as well, all at a less than 1% chance. 1 foil card of any rarity, which has a 60% chance to be a common, a 30% chance to be a common, and an 8% chance to be a rare or mythic. And once again, here you can find varying art treatments of cards, all at a less than 1% chance. And the final slot will be a land card that has a 50% chance to be a default frame basic land, and a 50% chance to be a full art basic land. Alright, we now have everything we need to begin our deck build. If you'd like to see an example of a Lorwyn Eclipsed sealed deck build, stick around until the final segment of this video, which is time-stamped below, where I will build an entire sealed deck on screen for you to follow along with. After you've built your deck, you will then be assigned an opponent by the event coordinator and you will play out your first match. Different stores will give you different amount of matches for the event, but usually it's a minimum of 3. Sometimes you might get lucky and be able to play 4 or more, it just depends. After you've finished your matches, you may qualify for some prizes, so be sure to check with the event coordinator to cash in on your winnings. So what I will do now is go over some of the notable mechanics for the set, the themes associated with the draftable archetypes, and just give you a general rundown of what's going on in Lorwyn before I do my deck build so we both have a better idea of what to look out for. The first new mechanic we have is Vivid. Vivid is an ability word that highlights abilities that care in some way about the number of colors among permanents you control. This number will always be between 0 and 5, as there are a max of 5 colors in Magic. Each Vivid ability uses this number in a different way. If it's in the effect of an activated ability or triggered ability like the one Shine Striker has, you count the number of colors among permanents you control as that ability resolves. Remember that lands are usually colorless, so they won't help Vivid abilities unless something gives them a color, which is pretty unusual. The next new mechanic we have present here in Lorwyn is Blight. Blight includes a number and is often phrased as a cost you pay. To blight X, you put X -1/-1 counters on a creature you control. That creature isn't targeted, so you choose which creature will get the -1/-1 counters as you're taking the blight action. Importantly, you can put more -1/-1 counters on a creature than it would take to get rid of it. So for example, if you blight 3, you can put 3 -1/-1 counters on a hapless 1/1, thank it for its service, and reap whatever benefit blighting got you. There are many reasons to blight. It's often a cost you have to pay, such as an activated ability or an additional cost to cast a spell. While -1/-1 counters aren't great for your creatures, there are several ways in this set to remove them. These effects not only relieve the counter's power and toughness penalties, but the effects often have additional benefits as well. Now, this next point won't come up in Lorwyn Limited, but a small note about -1/-1 counters for those that haven't played with them before. If you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature that already has a -1/-1 counter on it, they will cancel each other out and the creature will then have no counters on it. Again, this is guaranteed to not come up in Lorwyn Limited, as there are no cards in this set that grant +1/+1 counters, but it may come up in other formats that you play these cards in. Another returning mechanic we have is the return of Kindred spells. Kindred is a card type that's added to non-creature cards to allow them to have creature types. Being a Kindred allows Boggart Mischief to also be a goblin. This means it's a goblin card in your library, graveyard, and so on. So if you search your library for a goblin card, you can find Boggart Mischief. Note that it's not a creature card or a creature while on the battlefield, so be careful about effects that specify goblin creature, like Boggart Mischief's last ability does. Unless you somehow turn Boggart Mischief into a creature, that ability won't trigger when Boggart Mischief itself hits the graveyard. Some effects may check to see if you control a creature type. This means a permanent with that creature type, be it a creature or a kindred, but not a spell. As Wanderwine Farewell is resolving, you'll create Merfolk tokens if you control a Merfolk kindred, or perhaps a kindred permanent with Changeling, but Wanderwine Farewell won't count for itself, even though it is a Merfolk spell you control. Lastly, I'll note that a lot of other keywords are returning here in Lorwyn, including Convoke, Evoke, Persist, and even Behold, which made its debut less than a year ago in Tarkir Dragonstorm. I won't give you a deep dive here in this video, but if you're unfamiliar with any of these keywords, then be sure to brush up on them before the weekend. That does it for the most notable mechanics, so let's check out the draftable archetypes that Lorwyn will feature, each of which are visible on your screen now. You'll notice that 5 of these pairs focus around a particular creature type on the plane. These are all defined by Wizards of the Coast and are recommended for newer players. Now, Wizards does clarify that the other 5 archetypes are supported draft archetypes, but they don't define for us exactly what they are. So for the non-typal archetypes in this section, I'll be taking a guess as to what I think they might be based on the cards in those colors here in the set. So let's start with White-Blue, which is our first typal deck of the format, focusing around Merfolk. These typal decks will usually be pretty easy and straightforward to understand. Simply load your deck with Merfolk and use a variety of tapping synergies to cast your spells for cheap and disrupt your opponent. My best guess as to what the blue-black archetype is trying to do is that it cares about casting spells on your opponent's turn. We've got a few uncommon payoffs for doing this, as well as some hybrid and common cards with flash and lots of instants. So lean towards a classic tempo control deck and you should be well on your way. Black-Red is another one of the typal decks, and the type here happens to be Goblins. Everyone's got experience playing with and against Goblins in Magic. It's a creature type that transcends the game in a way, so throw around your Goblins for value and overrun your opponents. The red-green deck looks to be taking advantage of the new Vivid keyword in a more mid-range sense. We often see red-green as a deck that's pretty straightforward, focusing on slightly above rate creatures and beating down, trying to lower your opponent's life total as quickly as possible. So look to use the Vivid payoffs to help you as you slant slightly more aggressively. Green-white is a typal archetype that brings back an old creature type that we haven't seen in a while, Kithkin. The Kithkin act as a hive mind of shared consciousness here on Lorwyn, so look to play as many as you can, and the more Kithkin you play, the greater your thought weft grows as a result. White-black looks to take advantage of the new Blight keyword with a more value-oriented slant. So look to blight your own creatures for value and to activate the effects of some of your build-arounds to make the rest of your cards overperform their baselines. Blue-red is a typal archetype that builds around one of the more prominent creature types in recent Magic, and that is Elementals. Look to cast big spells and unleash the power of your elementals and overrun and outvalue your opponents. Black-green gets support from one of the most present and popular creature types in the history of Magic, Elves. Elves excel in providing you boosts of mana and work in tandem with each other to increase the power of their collection as a whole, so load up on Elves and reap the rewards. Red-white once again looks to play out as an aggro deck, this time with a slant towards taking advantage of the new Blight keyword. Don't forget that you can over-blight creatures, so blighting a large amount onto your measly 1/1 for a correspondingly large effect will help you get extra value out of this archetype. Green-blue also looks to play around with the new Vivid keyword from more of a ramp sense. So my guess is that green will be splashing around a lot, trying to get your Vivid count up higher, closer to 3 to 5, and then use some of the more expensive, more shiny and flashy payoffs to reward you for doing so. Now, the hardest part about the whole event is building your deck. But good news, I will now go through an entire Lorwyn Eclipsed sealed deck build to give you an idea of what you want to be looking out for in your pool of cards and how to maximize your chances of having a competitive deck for the event. You can also catch a video or two that will be posted here to the channel later this week showing a couple of sealed runs of the Lorwyn set when I participate in the streamer event this upcoming Wednesday. So if you're into some early access content, Daily Draft is the place to find it. And welcome to the deck building portion of the video here today. Before we get into it, I'm going to let you know what I'm looking at and how you can see this for yourself, the resources that I'm using here today. So the way I generate sealed pools before set release is I go to a site called draftsim.com, which you can see in this empty space here to my left. You can head over there and create sealed pools for yourself. You can also do some practice drafts if you really wanted to over there. They do have a deck building interface, but I like it a little bit less than what you're looking at right now, which is the sealeddeck.tech interface. So if you head to sealeddeck.tech, you can export from DraftSim and import into here to use this deck building interface, which is what I prefer. So we are headed to our pre-release and we've opened this kit here that you see on your screen, 6 packs plus a promo card. First thing I like to do is sort by rarity. I want to make sure that you can get your best cards into the deck if you at all possibly can. And this pool comes with 5 mythics and 4 rares, which is kind of wild. And when I saw that, I was a little bit confused as well. But just to prove to you, I still have this other tab open, this draftsim.com. It's a little cut off here on the left, but you can see all of these mythics and multicolor rares over here. If I sort by rarity, we've got the 4 rares, the 5 mythics are over here cut off, and I'm scrolling through them. You can see them a little bit. So this is a real pool that's generated by DraftSim. And we get to build with it here. So you want to make sure that you can try to get some of your best rares in if at all possible. Now I'm seeing a lot of green here. Granted, there's some hybrid, but there's a lot of green. And what's interesting about the Vivid keyword here in deck building for Lorwyn is there is effectively no fixing in this set, or at least not in my pool. Like, we've got basic lands don't matter. Eclipsed Realms is fixing for creature types. And then we've got no common like colorless source of fixing. There's probably some in green here that I haven't necessarily gone too deep on. There it is, Tend the Sprigs, sorry, is one, but that's a 3-mana sorcery that fixes, but that's about all we got. So getting Vivid is going to be a little bit more difficult, but we'll see what we can do here. Bloom Tender is still fine. It's a 1-mana, 1/1 mana dork. I mean, it's fine and limited. Worth a good bit of money if you open one too in your pre-release. We've got some white up here, which are also like fine but not outstanding cards, and then Sig, Wanderwine, Wisdom. If you don't have white in your deck, this is a 2-mana 2/2 unblockable. And when it enters, it gives a creature the ability to draw a card when it hits them. And if you don't have white, that's really all it's going to do, which is, you know, fine, but not outstanding. We have 2 Wistfulness here, which is a 5-mana 6/5 that can either draw 2, discard a card when it enters, or it can exile an artifact or enchantment, or it could do both if you have blue and green in your casting cost. Here we've got Vibrance, which is another one of the evoke elementals of the set. There's a cycle of these for most of the color pairs. I'm not exactly sure if it's all of them or not. 5-mana 4/4 when it enters, if red was spent to cast it, target creature deals 3 damage to any target. And then green, you get a land, put in your hand, and then shuffle, gain 2 life. So those are pretty good as well. I mean, I'm just seeing a lot of green, so my instinct is to kind of look at green here. When we look at our gold uncommons, we do have 2 Morkant's Loyalists, which is a 3-mana 3/2 that pumps all of our elves, and then when it dies, you can return an elf from your graveyard to your hand, as well as Eclipsed Elf to go along with Lorwyn Imperfect Naturalist. I mean, Wistfulness as a 5-mana 6/5 that sometimes can hit an artifact or enchantment, even if you can't hit blue on it, is probably still fine in a potential like black-green elves deck here. Vibrance, same thing, is a 5-mana 4/4 that gets a land and gains 2 life. That's also fine. I think the red ability on this is a little bit better, but I think it's still fine here. What else do we have kind of pulling us in directions here? We've got some goblin build-arounds here, as well as a Boggart Curse Crafter, which can do some damage based off of goblins. I'm not seeing a ton of goblins per se in our red. I think there's 3 here. 2 Brambleback Brutes and an Elder Auntie. 3-mana 2/2 enters, make another goblin. It's kind of fine for the goblin deck, I guess. And then in black, got a goblin, 3 elves. Scarblade Scouts, 2-mana 2/2 lifelink when it enters, mill 2. That's pretty good with things like Lewin. Could potentially splash some blue to get Marilyn in there as well, even if our fixing isn't great. We can throw in maybe even the Eclipsed Realm to help splash for some elf here. So my instinct here is to be base green, probably green-black for these elves. This is another place to look in your pool. If you've got some of these Signpost uncommons for some of these Signpost decks here, like we do 3 of them for black-green, that's another pretty good sign to kind of go in that direction. In sealed, especially for those of you that aren't as experienced with it, you're really going to want to make sure that you play as many powerful cards as you can, even if that means you're playing some things that may not be the greatest of creatures on the low end. Because if you can get something like, you know, Lewin or Marilyn or Wistfulness on the battlefield with Loyalist or something like that, I mean, these are enough ways to win games of Magic. So rather than take up all your time with the rest of this build here, obviously you should go through all your colors, but and make sure that you don't leave anything out that you really want to play. Commons are just kind of be the filler of the deck, unless you really find a bunch of good removal spells. I think this pool is looking a little light on removal, but you know, sometimes that just happens. And you just got to deal with it. So regardless, there might be some in blue, but I'm going to go ahead and build the rest of this deck off camera, then I'll cut back to my full build and explain why I went with what I did and then what I left out and why. Okay, I did actually land on black-green splashing Maryland here. So we've got 2 islands and an Eclipsed Realm. Lots of graveyard synergies with this deck as well. You know, we've got Midnight Tilling, we've got Morkant's Eyes, which cares about elves in the graveyard. Lewin, which cares about the graveyard as well. Scarblade Scouts can fill the graveyard. There's a lot of graveyard stuff going on here. The Wildvine Pummeler can just sit at the top of the curve. We technically do have 4 out of 5 colors in Magic represented in our deck. We've got red and green here, blue and green here, black with the rest. We just don't have a white card. So this could be kind of a low cost, as well as the Bloom Tender here helping us get there. Now, interestingly, I'm not sure this deck has a single piece of removal, because these 6 cards or 7 cards here are the only removal spells in our entire pool. We've got some decent-ish red ones. 4 mana instant, 5 to a creature, exile it, Tweeze, which deals 3 to any target for 3 mana, and then you can Rummage, and then Cinder Strike, similar thing. 2 to a creature, 4 if you blight 1. Pyrrhic Strike can kill a creature that is a little bit larger, mana value 3 or greater. Cleansing goes to the top or bottom of their library. Same thing with Swat Away, and Darkness Descends is our only removal in black, but it gets -1/-1 counters on everything. And we don't have any in green, and no other black removal. So this is one of those pools that just does not have very many removal spells. So what I'm kind of relying on here is just curving out with some 2 mana 3/1s and going into 3/2s that pump those and make them 4/2s and start to hit down hard. Dawnhand Eulogist, if there's an elf in your graveyard, you drain them for 2. I mean, that's kind of what you have to do with pools like this. So as loaded as I was on the rares and mythics ends of things, sometimes removal is also important, and this would be lacking in that. Now, I did take a look through blue, and blue was my closest call for a secondary color. 3 mana 3/2 when it enters, bounces a creature. Thirst for Identity, draw 3, discard unless you discard a creature card. We've got 2 counter spells over here in Wild Unraveling here. We have to blight 2 or pay 1, just make it a cancel. 2 mana 1/3 dies, draw a card. I mean, there's just this like decent-ish stuff, but we got some nice little elf synergies here, and I think this is probably what I would run. I think it's got a pretty decent chance. I'm just worried about the lack of removal. We've got powerful cards though, so hopefully this deck build gave you an idea of at least what to look out for and what to keep an eye out for in your pool for when you head this weekend. Go and build these decks for yourself at your Lorwyn pre-release. I hope this video was helpful to you and helps you build up the courage needed to go participate in a pre-release event at your LGS this weekend. If you've never been to one before, I highly recommend it. It's one of the absolute most fun ways to play Magic, and you'll meet tons of different players there. If you do end up going, return back to this video and leave a comment. Let me know how it went for you. I'd love to hear feedback from everyone about your events. Thanks so much for sticking around to the end of this video, and I will see you soon here at Daily Draft.